everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Shellie Geigle with J&S Hobbies and Crafts. Today's tutorial is on this mini album. It's about 4 5/8 by 6 5/8, and it's the design after what Jessica made, and I showed that in a share before. Now, I did go ahead before I made the tutorial album. This is the one we make in the tutorial. I went ahead to see how many of these little albums we can get out of one paper pack. And I wanted to make sure that I did okay with the design before I actually taught it. So this was the first one. So here is some ideas rather than this cover that you can do here. Now, I'm not done with all my picture mats, so I will flip through this one and I will flip through this one, but I have a couple in here to show you. And feel free to use little filigrees, tuck them back behind like Jessica did, using just whatever, a flower, whatever you would like. I ended up using the paper. This has a finished size of about 1 1/4 on the spine. This is puffed up with some of the Zots 3D, and you can slide a photo back behind in there. Now, I only did 2 picture mats so far, but something to show you. Right here is an area to tuck some picture mats back in there. And here's a larger picture mat in a pocket. So as you can see, very versatile. You can get a larger one in there and it doesn't interfere. So I'm going to take these out as we move through here. The next page, we have a big side pocket and then a place to tuck. So here is the side pocket to get that in. You just slide it in, and then if you wanted to tuck out another photograph, you can tuck it right back behind in there. Now over here, I wanted to show you, I made this pocket for those that do not have a die cutting machine. So the pocket is functional, but as some of you saw in the original that Jessica made for me, she had used this fancy die cuts pocket, and I think, what was it, Spellbinder's Bliss pocket die, Swirl Bliss pocket die, and I can't get that in my store. My vendor doesn't carry it anymore, and I don't know if it's been discontinued or not. But some of you, I believe I had this in my store years ago, and I can't find my die set, so I did guide you through for any extra scoring that may have been needed in the tutorial. So those of you that don't, you can create something like this, like in the tutorial. So again, you can get some photographs in there. Looks good. You can even put a flower. There is spacing there, enough spacing to maybe put a little flower too. So there's that. And then this folds over and you can place your photographs. Now the photograph sizes that I ended up using is the bigger ones I put on the picture mats. Back here for my own pictures, I use smaller, like wallet size, to get a bunch in there. But that is what we will be making today. I want to show you this other one that I made before I made the tutorial one. And this one was done for those of you that want to do a tie rather than the little drits. Save yourself some money. Also, I did not use the 3D Zots with this to raise it up, but you still can tuck back behind this and get a picture in there. Here, on this one, if you notice, on this one, we created a tuck with this. On this one, I just used one of the little cut-aparts that came with the paper collection. So we're not making this one in the album or in the tutorial. We're making the other one, but I wanted to show you some ideas. And this was just created like a tuck, so you can tuck photographs back behind. And here is the pocket. So it looks really good. It all ties in nicely, the colors in here. And then there's just a side pocket on this one, whereas I gave you the option, if you wanted to do the front tuck, you could, or you can just leave it alone like that and just use it as a little side pocket. This is where the pocket comes into play in the tutorial. However, I left this alone in the first album and I didn't do anything. And I didn't use any magnets in this like Jessica did in hers that she gave me. I was trying to cut down on as much cost so that when you make these for craft fairs, when you make them for gifts, it's less expensive. So when you open it up, and it's pretty much the same here, laying photographs. So there's lots of options. Also, you don't have to use the spine cover. I did that mostly for looks. Okay, anything else that I need to tell you? I'm trying to think. I think that's about it. This is a one-part tutorial, and picture mats we do not make in the tutorial because everyone has their own size pictures that they like to mat upon. So let's move on into the materials list. So let's review the materials list for this little mini album. I have already used some of the Mintay Glam Rock, and we're going to make it again. And in the beginning you saw that I made this, and you'll have a choice of using the little extra small coat hook and eyes by Dritz, and there's 4 in a pack, or you can do some ribbon. It's all up to you. But I'm going to be using the American Crafts 12 by 12 black cardstock, and we have been out of stock for so many months on this, and we finally got some in. So I will be using this, and this is an 80 pound. On the spine, I am going to be using some of this embossed vinyl, and I'm going to use brown today. If you have leftover scraps, use your leftover scraps before cutting into a new sheet. On the back, it's kind of a felt Tyvek. You're just going to need a couple strips of this, about 1 inch by 6 1/4 or so. 3D Zots, and this is the one that I'm using. Adhesives, Art Glitter Dries Clear Glue. Excuse, it's all messed up. I've refilled this time and time again. You will want to get the little metal tip that goes on top of there to help save on your glue. If you are using the vinyl for the spine wrap, you might want to get some fabric tack by Beacon. This really grabs a hold of this, so it doesn't take much time, and you can get that on there and adhere down to the spine. If all you have is the art glitter glue, it will take longer and a little more glue because the felt will first absorb the glue, and then it'll start to grab after about 5-10 minutes. I'm going to be using a 3/8 inch score tape. Optional is die cuts, and Jessica, in her original, she used this. And the name of this, she said, was like the Spellbinders Swirl Bliss Pocket Die. And if you have that die, you'll die cut 2 of them. If you do not have the die, and it's on the pre-cutting guide, we'll be making a pocket together. I tried to get this die into our store, but it's unavailable. So it may be something that's discontinued or just not available through my vendor. If you have something similar, you can use it. Now, if you are going to die cut, you have this die, don't assemble it yet because I can't find mine, and I want to make sure that we don't have to score differently to make the pocket. So there'll be notes on the pre-cutting guide for that. Tools that you're going to need for this tutorial is, of course, a scoring board, also a paper cutter, scissors, pencil with an eraser, your scoring tool or bone folder, and a craft knife is always handy. Okay, let's get to constructing the base album. On your pre-cutting guide, which you'll want to download, it's free, you would have cut 2 pieces of chipboard. They were 4.5 by 6.5, and a 1 inch by 6.5 inch, and that was our chipboard spine. We also cut 2 pieces of 1 inch by 6 1/4 inch Tyvek. And if you're not sure what Tyvek is, it's a material that is hard to tear. And if your spine ever blew out, this is what's going to keep your album together. If when cutting you have a little seam, you can either cut that off or dab a little glue. It isn't going to matter. For me, I'm just going to cut off the excess and it'll be just fine. For the album wrap, you'll want an 8 1/2 by 12 inch piece of your black cardstock. We have an inner page, and that was 5 1/8 by 6 3/8. What we did with our inner page for the scoring is we laid this on our scoring board so we were 5 1/8 inch across. It does not matter if your 0 starting point on your scoring board is here or it starts over this way. In any case, what you're going to do is lay this so you are 5 1/8 across. Score it at 5/8. For now, let's start with what we have. We're going to first start with our album wrap, and again, this is 8 1/2 by 12 inches. Let's grab our 2 4 1/2 by 6 1/2 chipboard covers and your 1 inch by 6 1/2 inch chipboard spine. We'd like you to lay down your chipboard covers down, and you will want to center that so it's even top and bottom as far as having an overlap. And you'll want about 1 inch of your cardstock showing over here. So once you get one down, here is the chipboard spine. You're going to place that right in there, and you can leave yourself approximately, and I'm going to give you a measurement here, about 1/4 inch in there, spacing between your covers and your spine, and that should leave you enough, 3/4 to 1 inch on this side. So what we're going to do is I'm going to leave this here, and I'm going to start with this. I'm going to grab my 3/8 score tape, and the first thing I'm going to do on this chipboard is I'm going to go all the way around the edges without going over, like a picture frame. What we do with this one, we will do with our other chipboard cover. So once you have it like that, all we're going to do now, as soon as I find the end here, is we're just going to put 2 pieces of score tape and kind of maneuver them to where they're somewhat spaced evenly as best we can. And we're going to also do it over here on this cover. Once you get the score tape down, it's really important that you do burnishing, and that's just running your tool over it. Make sure the score tape has made contact and it's smoothed out as best you can against the chipboard. And I'll show you that along the way. So I've got these 2 down, and again, I'm just going to put it where they should be for now. Now I'm going to push this off to the side. Let's grab our 1 inch by 6 1/2 inch spine. And for this, I am just going to lay 2 pieces, one on this side and one on this side. And then we're going to burnish. Alright, I'm going to move this back in. I'm going to get my pieces where they should be, even, top, bottom, about 1 inch over here. About 1 inch over here, and I will verify that I have about 1/4 inch, which I can see I'm pretty close to that. So I have everything where I think it should be. Now's the time. We're going to remove the score tape and we're going to place our first piece together. Okay, so make sure I leave that 1/4 inch. As long as you have enough on the side over here to wrap. If you are new to doing this, before you place the spine, you might want to place it in its correct place and then do this one to make sure you give yourself at least a 3/4 inch of your black cardstock or 1 inch. But we're just going to lay these all down. And you're going to want to make sure that this is center, this part here. Whoops, there goes my phone. There we go. You're going to want to make sure that the bottom of this is even with the bottom of this chipboard. And I think I got it pretty good there, so I'm just going to lay that down. Now let's get this one. If you need to make pencil marks, go ahead to help you line up and get it on with your spacing correctly. We will burnish from the other side, but for now we're just going to get this going. And I think that's good enough. Right there. So now let's flip this over and we will give a good burnish. We're going to lay our Tyvek now. So here's our two pieces. And all we're going to do with this is lay a piece of score tape along this side without going over and along this one. And we'll do the same with the other, and I'll show you. So as you can see, so on this, what you're going to want to make sure that you do is burnish down. Let's do the same with this one. So I have my two pieces now. I'm going to bring this down. So I'm going to show you first what we're going to do before we do it. And I think you can see the spacing in between my spine and my covers. But when I remove the backing on this, I'm going to place this centered top and bottom on the chipboard and just place it right on over evenly over the spacing. So let's do it. If you don't get it absolutely even, that's okay, because our wrap is going to come and cover those edges, top and bottom. So if you get any wrinkling, that's okay too, because this does get covered up. There's one. Let's get the other one over the other. If you don't get it on straight, it's okay. It does get covered. So I have that down. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my score tape and I'm going to go onto the cardstock right along the edge of the, over the edge of the chipboard. So it's all on the cardstock. And I don't have to go all the way to the end because we will be clipping off at an angle. But you will want. Next, what we're going to do is go along the outside edges without going over. And again, you don't have to go all the way to the edge because we'll be clipping at an angle. So we're just going to go without going over. Once we've done this, we're definitely going to be burnishing all this tape down. If you used glue, you'll definitely, once we get everything cut and wrapped, you'll be burnishing as well. So don't burnish on the wet glue. You'll be burnishing once something, paper goes over it. But we're using here the score tape. So we're just going to give a good burnishing here. And we'll burnish it again. Okay, you see where the corner of your chipboard is. When we cut at an angle, you are going to leave 1/8 inch away. And you don't have to be perfect with your angle. And we're going to do this on every side. So this is what we have. Now what we're going to do is just kind of work the edges here with our hand. Just kind of pull it over like that. And we're going to do that with the top as well as the bottom. This is such a small piece, it's very easy to work with rather than a larger album. So we're going to start folding. And I think we're going to start with the top and the bottom for this. So I am going to release the score tape here and here. Now we just fold and we'll smooth out. Do it in the middle and then smooth out. We can take these off now and we will burnish that in just a moment. We will get this off. And we're ready to do the same thing, starting in the middle and wrapping up and smoothing out. Now comes where our little tool comes in handy. The idea of this, and I'm going to show you first, is I'm going to place it up here flat, and then I'm going to round the corner. And you will see that that will tuck in over here so that when we do wrap, it's not such a pointy point, I guess you'd say. It sounds like an oxymoron. So down here, we're going to do the same. Flat up against, and I like to place a finger down pretty close to the edge so it doesn't crinkle my paper. But place a finger here and then just kind of do that. And it tucks it in. So we're going to do that with each side. Once you've done that, you can pull this over now. And here's the thing, if you get any bulk, use the side of your tool to push in and down. Okay, so that's my first thing, is make sure it's down and pushed. That all looks good. Let's burnish. And you might hear some crinkling noise, and all that is just the score tape making contact, getting the air out from underneath. The next thing is, and now this is different than when I teach regular, larger mini albums, but how Jessica had constructed this was, instead of laying a piece of black cardstock to cover this, we're going to do our decorated paper. So for right now, before we can get our page hinge in, we're going to take these two and set them off to the side, and we're going to get into our decorated paper. In your paper pack, you will find this gorgeous print. On the back, it is this. The first thing we're going to want to do is take off that trim piece. So I am going to do that really quick. Take that off. Now, one thing about my tutorials and when we're cutting the decorated paper together, I try to stay consistent by telling you to start here and measure over this way. So if I need to get a certain cut, I might turn my paper and say, start measuring over this way. And the reason why is it keeps us consistent. I'm not having you cut up, down, all over the place. So the first thing we are going to do is turn our paper like this, so it's sideways. We're going to start over here, and we're going to measure over 6 3/8 and cut. So 6 3/8. For now, we're going to put that in our reserves. Now we have this piece. We're going to measure over 10 1/4 inches and cut. So 10 1/4. This piece here, I want you to set this off to the side. Whoops, I'm going to bring this down. We're going to be needing this, so we'll just set that off to the side. I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to grab my base of the album. Now what we're going to do is we will be putting some score tape around here, but there are some places that we're going to need to put score tape consistently so that we don't get any bubbling up on the spine when we do eventually pull in the sides. But the first thing we want to do is just lay this down and make sure that it fits. Now one thing is I can still see some white down here. I'm going to trim that off a bit. Just a little bit. There we go. So lay your piece down, and the idea is to be able to have a black border all the way around and side to side. So once you have that, I want you to flip this over, and I want you to drag it down until you can see your Tyvek. And you're going to center this in there side by side so you have even amount of chipboard still showing here and here. Let's grab our pencil. On the left-hand side, I want you to just put a pencil mark right where that is, and over here. What that's going to tell us is everything in between needs score tape. So I'm using a score tape that I've already started on. I'm going to just start placing this straight down and right over here, straight down. Now everything in between, we're going to line our score tape. If you get some score tape hanging over the edge, we'll just clip that off. If you get a little bit of score tape overlapping, that's okay. Let's burnish that down really quick, and then we're going to clean up and around this. So anywhere you can see score tape, you definitely want to clip that off so you don't see it anymore. Otherwise, you will be able to see that. So I look pretty good on the other places. Let's continue on. With our score tape now, what we're going to do is go around the outside of these two panels without going over. And if you go over, we'll clip that. Now that we have that, what we're going to do is just place two pieces of score tape in between on each side. Let's give that a good burnishing. I'm going to burnish this whole thing down. Alrighty, I'm going to grab this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to release the score tape now, and I'm going to place this down. Now this is a very large piece, so what you might want to do is once you get the score tape off is squirt a little glue. I'll do that and I'll show you. So here's my piece. I have all the score tape off. I'm going to grab my glue, and right down here at the bottom, and all this is going to do is give me some wiggle room. Whoops, I got quite a bit up there. I'm going to have some squirting out on me. I have it down at the bottom because I'll place first at the bottom, and what it will do is help me so I can maneuver and get this on straight before the score tape grabs. And I think that's fairly straight for me. And now we just burnish. Very important, make sure you get that score tape right in this area, all down. And my glue is going to seep out. I can see that. Now that we have this down, looks like I got a little pencil mark in there. Now that we have this down, I want you to place your hand right on that spine and slowly bend up. One thing about this, and it only goes straight up. If you go over any more, you'll rip out the side. But if you do, we're going to be using some of this vinyl on the outside too. So there's that. And we'll get the other one. And I'm just going to lightly kind of wiggle this around. Next thing we want is our 5 1/8 by 6 3/8 inner page. Now you'll want to fold on that score line. Now different from me, usually I place this part, here's the inside front, usually I butt that right on up against this part, and we can do that. But Jessica, what she did was came to the back part, lifted it up, and placed it in this way. So that's what we're going to do. You may want to, you can use score tape. I'm going to use score tape, but you can use glue to do that, but just make sure you burnish that really good. So I'm going to grab my score tape, and you can also do the score tape with a little glue too for wiggle room. Now one thing about this is that I am going to have overlap, and that won't hurt nothing. Just make sure I burnish down really good. So I'm going to remove this. There we go. So hinge is off this way, very different from what I usually do, but I'm just going to pull this straight up, and I'm going to line this up with the top and bottom of my decorative paper. I think that's about good. And we'll burnish that. So here is the back, here is the front, here is this. I'm going to erase this now, just so that keeps you from getting confused. We're going to write a 2, that's page 2. Here's page 1, here's page 2. This is page 3 and this is 4. Let's open it up to where we see that black part. This is where this is going to come into play here. Let's look at it like this, where we have the flowers on this side. Measure over a 1/2 inch and cut. So this is what you should have. For now, let's place that back in our reserves. We're going to apply glue to this, and our little, here's our page, our little black hinge. This is going to glue right on top of it without interfering with our hinge. So our paper can still do its thing there by turning. And that'll cover that up, and it will fit top to bottom and line up with our paper there. This piece right here that we cut off from that, I want you to set that to the side so we don't lose it. We may be needing that here shortly when we get to back in this area. All right, so we have the base of the album done. Let's move on to decorating the outside. And really quick, grab your pencil so we don't get turned around. Let's close it. The opening is over here. We're going to write front. We'll flip it over and write back. All right, we're moving on. Now that we have the album all pretty much the base done, the rest of this should be a breeze. We're on to decorating the outside. You have one pre-cut. It's a 3 1/8 by 3 7/8, and we called it a mat. Let's get down to pulling this and cutting for the outside. In your paper pack, you will find this gorgeous print. On the back, it is this. Let's take off that trim piece. So for this, because I want to make sure we all have the same leftovers, as you can see on the back, it's different. What we're going to do is look at it like this. The faded part is down here, the darker's here. Measure over 6 3/8 and cut. 6 3/8. This piece we'll put in our reserve for right now. Next, we're going to make 2 cuts. We're going to measure over 4 3/8 and cut. We'll measure over again 4 3/8 and cut. So 4 3/8, 4 3/8. We have those. Now for this, measure over 1 inch and cut. And I think right about there. It's kind of hard to get my 1 inch straight here. This piece that falls off, we will put in our reserves. I'm going to move this out of the way really quick. And we're going to grab, whoops, wrong one, our album. Here's our front. It doesn't matter which one of these you choose. All we're going to do here is we are going to glue that down, and that will give us a nice black border all the way around. And I'm going to use score tape, and then score tape down the middle, and I'll squiggle a little glue, and I'll do that. Now on the flip side, I'm going to do the same thing. So let's do that really quick. So I have both of mine like this, like I said, around one down the middle. Now I'm going to burnish this all down. I'm going to remove the score tape backing. I am going to squirt a little glue in here, and then I'll place it. So let me burnish and get myself ready, and you can do that too. And I'll meet you back at placing it on here. Okay, I have my first one ready to go. And here is the front. And I'm just going to place it, I think right about there should be good. Okay, I'll burnish that in just a moment. I'm going to get this one down in the back. Okay, I am going to open this up now and give this a good burnish. Okay, so when we open it up, remember we did a 2 for page 2 and 3, so we'll make sure we know where our front is at all times. This piece right here, I am going to just glue. I'm just going to glue this small little piece. Just make sure you get your edges pretty good. Actually, we don't even need this, but some of you do not want to use or are not using this piece, your vinyl. So if you're not, this is perfect for you. But we'll do it anyway, keep together as a group. So we have all the same leftover cuts. And we'll burnish that. So this does get covered if you're using the vinyl. If you're not, guess what? Here is your little spine cover. And it isn't going to wrap. Now, grab your vinyl, and you're going to need to cut a piece. The piece that you want, if you're using this, if you're not, you're good to go right there. If you're using this, you'll want to cut a 3 1/8 by 6 1/2 inch piece. You're going to want your Beacon fabric tack. If you are not using that, I believe I said in materials list, when you put glue on this, it's first going to kind of absorb, so you'll need to put a little bit more. If you're using this, then it's going to grab for you. Here's the idea. First, place this in your hand. Look at your overlap on your sides. Okay, you should have even amount. So if I was to turn it like this and kind of look, I should have even here and here, so it will look right. If you need to put a little pencil mark or something just to help you along where you should be coming to, you can do that. So for me, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to place it directly on this. The key to using this so that it wraps nicely is making sure you get it right on the edge right there of the hinge. And you can wipe up any glue that kind of seeps out. So I'm just going to place this. It'll give me a moment to get it on there. And then I'm going to wrap it around. So I'm going to kind of smooth that out, and I'm going to quickly wrap it around so I can get it straight on the front. Like that. So when I push this back, it should look pretty even and straight. So I'm going to just kind of use my hand for right now to get that to grab. Here's the easy part. Once you have that, you can go ahead and place your glue the rest of the way on this, making sure you get on that hinge area over here as well. And getting your corners. If you need to add a little more after you get it down, that's fine. But just making sure you get enough on there. Okay, so here's this. And now I'm just going to kind of smooth it on over. And then it wraps to the back. And that should keep you pretty straight. Don't open it up right now. Let your glue completely dry. So I think I got that down pretty good and smoothed out pretty good. There's my back. Here's my front. So don't open it. Just leave it shut and set this off to the side. Let's grab our mat. I'm going to set this, pull this. Here's my mat. I have this. I'm going to grab this back out. Okay, we're looking at it to where the dark is over here. We're going to measure over 3 inches and cut. So 3 inches. The big piece we'll put back in our reserves. All right, we're now going to turn it sideways to where we have the little white specks over here. Measure over 3 3/4 and cut. This little piece we'll put in reserves. Grab your mat. When you place this down, you should be able to have a nice little black border around it. Let's glue that down. If you are using the 3D Zots, we're going to need to get those out and ready. If you are using any of the metal filigrees or anything like that, what you will want to do is take this, and if you're using the filigrees, you're probably going to want to use the Zots. So the Zots were optional. The idea is this is going to place like right here. But first, look where this is going to sit. And what you can do is get your filigree, get your glue on, and kind of tuck it back behind, underneath here and here, so it kind of looked like this, what she did. I'm not using that, so I'm going to get some Zots ready. I'm doing something just a little bit different. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of get over here in the corners. Now I do want to have some little bit of background coming up and stuff, so I'm going to leave that open, this area, so I can tuck a little, but I am going to be placing here, 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 and here, and here. That way it stays down. I know it seems like a lot, but it helps from, if it ever snags on something, at least it'll hold it, you know. These are pretty durable. Okay, right up here, I'm just going to bring it down just a little bit, and I need one more. In this pack that I have, there's 125, so I'm not going to really worry about it. I'd rather have my album be more secure than, you know, and I think I'll put one in the middle so it doesn't. If you don't want to use this many, you don't have to, but I am. Okay, we are ready to go. I'm going to place this right here. Now, before you do, if you are using ribbon, right now is the time to glue it down, and you can bring it in more so that when you do place this, it's tucked back behind. And for the back, what you can do, let me just show you, you can do just a little piece like this on the back. This one I am going to be using the little drits. So I'll just place that right here as best I can. Leave the room over there for your little drits. And I need to find my little drits. What happened to them? Okay, I found them. Now 4 of these small ones come in a pack. Right now, let's just grab one of our hooks and one of our little eyes. We're going to place the flat one. So I have used this glue to hold this down with some of the bigger drits with no problem. You just need to have it set and dry. So I'm just going to place that somewhere right here. The idea is to still be able to get that hook in there. Alright, that needs to dry. If you have a binder clip or if you have some clamps, now would be the good time just to kind of clamp that down. This piece here, hold off for now. We'll just stick that off to the side. Right here, let's see what I got. So of course I've already used some of mine, and I want to get after some of this, and I think what I'm going to do on this one is let's cut out this because I'm going to use some of this up here. Let's see how that looks. So we'll get after that. Okay. So for this, I think what I want to do is I'm just going to cut across. Now I'm going to cut out and around this little piece here as best I can. I really need my smaller scissors, but I'm not going to be so detailed on it. I mean, I still want to get around the curves and stuff, but you don't have to be real persnickety about it. So So let's see if that'll slide back down in there a little bit. And I think it'll look really good. Just kind of something there. Don't glue it down just yet, but that'll fit. If you need to trim off a little more, do so. What else do I want to get after here? Down here, we're just trying to get all the pieces out. This little star I think I want to use, and this piece here. Let's cut out and around these. I'll show you mine as soon as it's done. I have all three of my pieces. Now on this one, this is how it came out after I cut out and around. Here's my star, and then here is this. I'm going to chop mine down just a little bit more. Now being that this is going to be on the cover, what I am going to do is I'm going to glue this down to some black cardstock, some scraps. I'm going to glue that down. And as far as the star goes, we don't really need to, but I do want to put that right at an angle here, and then we can cut out and around the whole piece. So just kind of put it wherever. Okay, so glue it all down, and then we're going to cut out and around once it's glued down, leaving a little bit of a black border. This will stiffen this piece up. If you'd rather just place a flower and be done, you can do that too. I have mine done. So here's that. And then this little piece. So the first thing I'm going to do is glue this down. And now you can see that you can kind of see it better with the background. Okay, for this piece, it's going to lay right here. Now don't put glue up underneath here. Oh, there goes the dogs. Because you want to be able to tuck a picture back behind in here. So I'm going to give this a little bend. This part, make sure it doesn't go over. So the parts to glue, I will show you. I'm going to rotate this around. This part definitely across the bottom. And I think right here, let's see, I think right about in there. So just kind of bring it here, put that down, and I'm going to hold it. And I did need to, I took mine off, my clamp off my drits just a little too soon. I think I'm going to place something over that. And I don't need to do anything special for that. What I'm going to get after, I think, see this little burgundy piece right here, the star? Let's grab that. And then what we're going to do is put that over the drits to help keep that down. The drits are really tiny on this. By now the spine piece should be completely dry if you used it. But the star is going to help keep the drits down. So we're going to apply some glue. Make sure you get the tips and everything, and then we'll just kind of tuck it back behind as best we can. So I am just going to slide it. And it covers the drits, so top, bottom, and right on in there. And it kind of blends in with the background of the paper. And that should help also to secure that. So now we can open this up, and you can burnish down further any glue that needs to be done. Right on that spine. You're going to need some ribbon for the other part of the drits, but what I want you to do is just get your ribbon ready. As soon as I know that the drits is completely dry, we'll come back. I'll show you how to assemble and get this hooked on. Let's move on in to page 1. We're on page 1. There are no pre-cuts on the pre-cutting guide. Let's grab this back out. Of course, you're going to have more on your page than mine because I had already made an album with it. But you see up here, we're going to cut this out. We're going to cut out and around this image, and I will show you what mine looks like. Then I'm going to glue it down to some black scrap cardstock, and I'm going to cut out and around, leaving a black border. And I'll show you what it looks like with the border too. So let's do this. And I am not going to be real persnickety around all this. I'm going to just kind of weave out and around. So this is what mine look like. As you can see, I just kind of weaved around stuff, quick and easy, rather than getting real detailed on this. So now I'm going to glue this down, I'm going to burnish it, and I'll cut out and around, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch of black showing. And I'll show you that as soon as I'm done. I have mine done. Here's the little bit of black border around it. Now the reason why we have the black border is so it's going to stiffen up this piece for us, but it's also going to help us keep it stiff enough so that we can use it for how we need to use it, but also to try and separate some of the colors. Even though it's black back here, it's not so much black over here. This is just going to be glued down so you can still slide a photograph right back behind. So I have it arranged like this. I'm going to rotate it around. We're going to get over here along the bottom. And this should slide all the way over. Now, you see where your crease is here? You don't want to get this caught in that. You can have a little bit of overhang this way, though. So I'm just going to bring it to where the crease is so it doesn't fold into it. And then I'm going to just pop it up a little. And then I'm barely over the side. And I'll show you just a moment. Wipe up any glue. Now over here, see where you have this and this? I have my album upside down right now. Put a little underneath that. And then I'm going to kind of push it in so this puckers up a little more. So it will give like a dimensional look once you get a photograph back there. And however you want to do it on a picture mat. Okay, so page 1 is complete. I'm not going to add anything else. We are now moving on to page 2. We're on page 2, and there's one pre-cut, 3.5 by 5 1/4. And what we did, and I'm going to bring this down, you can see a little better, is we laid this so we were 3.5 inches across. We scored at a 1/2 inch. Then the instructions said to rotate this or turn it. So now you're sitting at 5 1/4 across. Whoops. Score at a 1/2 inch and 4 3/4. And we called that a pocket. Notice that our score lines come down on the sides and across the bottom. It creates little squares on each side. We're going to cut out those little squares. Now all we have to do is fold on those score lines. We're going to need our glue. So with our sides folded in, we're going to fold the flap down. Down in the corner, we're going to place a little bit of glue on each little corner of this bottom flap. The idea is not to have your glue so far over that it goes past where this line is of our fold in. Once you have that, you can pull it up and use your tool to burnish that. All right, we are ready. We'll stick that off to the side. Let's find our paper for right here. In your paper pack, you will have this print, and on the back, it is this. Let's go ahead and first take off that trim piece. So I have the trim piece off. Let's turn it so it's this way. The little black lace is over here. Measure over 6 1/8 and cut. After making that cut, this is what you will have. This piece we'll put in our reserves. We have the black lace over here now. Measure over 4 1/8 and cut. Here is our main sheet. If you were to lay this down on your page 2 and center it in there, leaving your black border here, 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 and here, it should fit really nice. Let's get our pocket. We're going to rotate this. This bottom flap is the bottom of the pocket. So let's get our glue on those flaps. And the bottom here is the opening. We'll just bring that all the way down. And what we're going to do is pucker in the side so it lines up with the side of our decorative paper, so that you can get more in that pocket. Just hold it there a minute. So it should look like that and give you some space. Let's find our paper for this. Grab this back out of your reserves. It has the guitar and all that. And what we're going to do is flip this upside down. We're going to measure over, so the guitar is upside down over here. Measure over 4 1/8 and cut. All right. So next we're going to turn it like this. The guitar is sideways. Measure over 2 7/8 and cut. So we retained some of the guitar, we got some flowers, we got part of the star, it's not quite centered, but good enough. We're going to apply glue, and we're going to glue that down, and we're going to leave ourselves a black lip here to show us that it's the pocket. If you prefer to use this side, you can. Let me make sure I get that straight. That looks pretty good. Clean up that glue. Let's grab our album. Here's page 2. Now, if you would like to just use glue and to glue it down, you'll want to burnish it down really good, or you can use score tape. I'm going to use my score tape at least around the edges there. And for me, since I'm a score tape girl, I'm going to actually put a couple stripes of score tape down there in between. But you can use your glue on this small of an album that isn't heavy at all. Definitely get away with using some glue. I just prefer the score tape myself. I had my other tool, my white one, and I cannot find it now. It's ran away. So I'm going to be using my other one there. And we're going to place this. If you're using score tape as well, what you can do is squirt a little bit of glue down at the bottom so you have some maneuver time to get this on. So here's my page 2. I'm going to make sure I'm centered side to side away from that hinge, and I'm going to get that down. Okay, page 2 is complete. We are now moving on to page 3. We're on page 3, and we have one pre-cut. It's 3 1/4 by 7 1/8. And what we did was we laid this on our scoring board. We are 3 1/4 across. We scored it at a half. Then we turned it, so now we're 7 1/8. We scored it at a half and 6 5/8. We called that our side pocket. Just like our other pocket, we're going to cut out those little squares, and then we'll assemble it the same way we did on the other. Got those little squares out. We'll get our glue down in the corners of the bottom flap. We'll pull them up. All right, we're going to set this off to the side, and we are going to find our main paper for this. In your reserves, you will have this print, and on the back, it looks like this. We're going to flip this upside down. The shoes are up here, the rows. We're going to measure over 4 1/8 and cut. Now that we have that, we're going to just turn that sideways. We'll measure over 6 1/8 and cut. This is going to be our main page, and we're going to have it situated like this because the pocket, the opening of the pocket is right here. And so we're going to be able to see some headphones and some of our flowers over here. So let's get this down. So again, our opening is this way, and we're just going to place that all the way to the left of our main page, and we're going to burnish that. This is our side pocket. Make sure I got that on straight. There we go. In your reserves, you will have this print on the back. It is this. So what we're going to do with this first is we're going to turn it upside down, speaker here with the shoes. We're going to measure over 6 1/8 and cut. Now that you have that, I'm looking at it like this, measure over 2 5/8 and cut. This piece here, you have a choice. You can place it like that, or you can flip it over like this. I am going to put glue on this side and have this side up. And I'm going to add a little something that was not in the original design because I'm working with this paper and I want to make it look really nice and give some extra options. In your paper pack, you will have one of these. Now, if you would like to go ahead and cut and divide these, you can. I already have used one of these. So what I'm getting after is this one. So if you just want to cut that piece out, do so. Once you have this cut out, I'm going to glue it down to some black cardstock and cut out around, leaving about a 1/16 of black. Now you can leave it simple like this for the side pocket. What I'm getting after is I'm going to place this over it so I have an additional spot to slide a photograph there. And it gives me some of that deeper color as well. I got crazy with my glue on this. I'm going to have a little bit of a mess down here. I got to clean up. There we go. Okay, I'm going to cut out and round, leaving a 1/16 of black. With this, I'm going to slightly have about 1/8 of an inch hanging off the side over this, which is fine. So I'm only going to, here's this, I'm just going to rotate this now. Over here, I'll go up maybe 1/3 and come over maybe, maybe 3/4 of the way so that you don't glue this part down. And I'll put that slightly at an angle. Just make sure you ain't got no glue down there. So now, here's a couple photographs. You get one in the pocket, and you can get one back behind. Okay, once again, place your score tape around the outside like a picture frame, 2 down the middle, and place this centered, leaving a black border here, 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 and here, or use your glue. So let's do that. Page 3 is complete. We're now moving on to page 4. We are on our last page, and we have some pre-cuts. So everyone would have cut a 4 3/4 by 6 1/8 piece, and we called it a fold out. We laid this on our scoring board, so we were 4 3/4 across, and we just scored that at a 1/2 inch. And you can go ahead and fold on that, and we'll set that off to the side. Now here's where we're going to differ. If some of you have that Spellbinders fancy pocket die, you would have die cut 2. Okay, if you are not die cutting like me, you would have cut 2 pieces that were 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. We labeled them top, bottom, pocket. On each one of these, we laid this so we were 2 3/4 across. We scored it at a half. We then turned it. We are 5 1/4 across. We scored at a half and 4 3/4. Let's go ahead and grab our album because this is our page 4. We're going to grab our fold out here. Now it might be easier for everyone to use the glue so you can maneuver. One thing is don't be tricked by where your hinges. So right now what I'd like you to do is fold this up to see exactly where that hinge is. Now before we do glue, fold that hinge back behind this, place it down, and you are going to be 1/8 inch away from that hinge. So now that you know what we're doing, let's place some glue. And when we do this, we're still going to be centering this top and bottom. So I can see where my hinge is there, and I'm going to bring it in about 1/8 of an inch. And I think that that's pretty good right there. Get that down. I look pretty straight there. And I'm going to burnish. So you should be able to be clear of that hinge there. Let's fold this open. Remember this piece that I had you set off to the side? We're going to use this. We're going to measure over 1/2 inch and cut. After doing that, now we'll just cut it down. Measure over 6 1/8 and cut. Let's apply glue and glue that down. Now this is really pretty on the back side with that. You can use that. And matter of fact, I think I will. Or you can do it like this. I am going to get some of this pretty design in to break it up a little bit. It'll look really cool. I like that. So just make sure you don't get on the hinge of this. All right, let's go and get our main decorative paper for this. In your reserves, you will have this long piece, and I want to use it. Let's turn it sideways. Measure over 6 inches and cut. So that's what you should have. And I'm looking at it, so now we are 6 inches tall. Measure over 4 1/8 and cut. Now after making that cut, if you were to place this down, and I want you to so you can see, it's going to give you a very slim black border all the way around, about a 1/16 inch away. And we're going to glue that down. And I'm just going to use glue this time instead of my score tape. This is where we're going to differ. Those of you that have that decorative pocket die, what you're going to do is measure across the width of yours using this, once we get this down, and then make it a pencil mark where the score line needs to be on your piece. And then you'll score it. I believe that die has some pre-scoring in it, so you will make your own score marks if needed. And I wish I could find mine, but I can't. Those of us that are using this is where we're also going to differ from the people who die cut. If you're die cut, you'll leave yours black. For us, we're going to need to get a decorated paper first, and then we're going to shape it. And we're going to use this piece here. I want to use this piece. So what we're going to first do is we're going to measure over 4 1/8 and cut. Next, we're going to turn it this way. We're going to make 2 cuts. We'll measure over 2 1/8 and cut. We'll measure over again 2 1/8 and cut. And we will just flip these right over. Let's get this pocket ready to go. We're not going to glue the flaps back just yet, but let's get the squares cut out on both of these. Now, the easiest way for us to get a curved shape is to actually first curve it on our decorative paper first. So what you're going to want to do is on one of these, because we'll use one as our pattern, is let's lay our ruler down. We'll line up the starting point with the edge of our paper. We are 4 1/8 across. At 2 1/16, that is going to be our midpoint, our middle point. And I'm just going to put a little bit of a pencil mark there at the top. And I'm going to give you a measurement too. We're going to use, since everyone's different on how much score tape they have left, we're going to use the inside rounded part when we do our thing. But I'm going to give you a measurement. And I would like you to measure down. We're wide here. We're going to measure down from the top 1 3/8 and just make a light little pencil mark. Now, see your middle point, and you see the inside here. Bring the inside up to your line where it would meet and try to center this. And you can look side to side to see where you're at. Just make sure you have enough over here and here so it looks right. And I can see there's my line. So I have it in place, and I'm just going to draw. So this is going to become my pattern, and I'm going to cut. I'm going to take my other one. I'm going to line them up. But we're just going to trace that. Make sure you're lined up. I moved on mine, slipped. So I'll just trace that line. And I'll cut out for this one too. Now if you get this a little off, chances are no one's going to notice. Okay, it's time to grab this. And you may want to erase your pencil marks or your writing on it for now. The flap is at the bottom. We're going to take one of our pieces. We will bring it down to the bottom, and we will make sure we center that side to side. And now we're going to draw. So there's one. For me, I'm going to double these up and take my chances, and I'm going to cut 2 at the same time here. If it doesn't come out perfect, if they slide around, I'm not going to really worry too much about that, because I'm just not. And if I have to trim it a little more, I will. Erase anything on here. Let's take a look. If I was to place this all the way down, even side to side, I can still see a little bit of a black border, and that looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and assemble this first, and then I'll glue down both of my pieces. Now, don't throw these away. If you make another one, use them. You can go here and here. So that's another thing. If you don't want to use these or do a pocket like that, just make sure that you glue this down to black cardstock, cut out around it so it thickens it up a little. So that's an idea. I'm definitely going to keep mine because I'm going to try and make another one. Where'd my other one go? Where? Oh, here. So I'm going to keep those. Now one thing is this is going to be slightly wider than the cut that we made, and that's okay for our decorated paper. That's quite okay, because we can always push in on the sides to give it a little more room in that pocket. Okay, once you have that place your piece, glue it down. And I'm going to do the same with this one. We are ready to place our pockets. So I'm going to give this one just a little bend, and I'm going to get on those flaps. Now be very careful not to get on that hinge. So I'm going to bring this to the side of my decorated paper and down to the bottom. Oh, I need to clip that. Down to the bottom, and then this side you can press in, and then it will match up to the side of your black cardstock and this, and then press in the middle. So you can get something in there. We're going to do the same with the top. Give a little bend and a little push in there. And then I'll just press down here. And you should not interfere now with that hinge. And you can get a little picture on in there. Let's see, here's a picture map from my other book. So you should be able to get something in there. Okay, last piece, and there are no pre-cuts on this. This is just open space for us. And in your reserves, you should have this piece. Let's see if it fits. Top and bottom, it does, side to side. Giving us a little bit, about a 1/16 over here and a 1/16. That works. No cutting necessary. The only thing we have left to do on this, just make sure it doesn't get on your hinge. If you need to shave off 1/8 of an inch, do so. Now I think with this, I'm going to have the decoration down at the bottom. That worked out really good for us. I want to look and see how much paper I have left. If I could get out of a Mintay paper pack, another one. See what we have. Plus, because I've already made one with the same pack, but I want to see. Boy, that looks really good. I like that. Okay, we have the drits to finish up. What do we have left here? Okay, guys, we have quite a bit left. Like I said, I've made this one, and I've made this one. And I've got some leftover pieces for picture mats. So my thing is with this, is that these are what's left. I may be able to get one more done, but I do want to make some picture mats with the paper. So you may have to, on a third one, is bring in some solid colored cardstock. Just an idea. Oh, that looks really good. Now remember, picture mats we don't do together. We do them separately because everyone has their own taste and size. So here's this itty bitty little hook part to our drits, and you notice you have 2 eyes. We're going to feed, and I'm using about 1/8 inch ribbon here so I can get it through. And I just cut a piece that is long enough, and I'll just cut it shorter because this is going to be way too long. But I like to be able to have something to grab hold of. Now your drits over here should be completely dry. We're going to hook that on there. And we're going to look at our album. We don't want to singe it completely shut. We want to give it a little bit of room. And all I'm going to do is once I see how much room is there that I want to leave, I'm going to pinch it right here on the side. Okay, so right about there, so that I can catch those on the back. Now this, once you do that, you'll want to unhook it so you are free to move around. I'm going to move those out of the way. I'm going to grab some fabric tack for this, the Beacon. You can use your other glue, but so I see where that needs to be. And we're going to cover this up too. We're going to give it some room there. And I'll put the tails together. There we go. And I'm going to cut these tails off. Okay, now if you want to clamp this for a bit, you can. I'm just going to kind of hold that there. And I'm going to cover that up with something. Seems to be holding pretty good already. Grabbing. And I think this one, the little one with the gold around it. So for this, all I'm going to do is cut out and around it, and I'm going to apply glue to it, and I'm going to glue it over those tails. So here's that. And because it's going over fabric, I think I'll use my fabric tack. Your glitter glue will work, by the way. It's just going to take a bit to, and this stuff just gets all over my hands, but it does grab pretty good. I got glue all over me. So I'm just going to place this. Alrighty, this album is complete. I'm going to unhook that. That looks really good. And I like that a lot. Alrighty, thank you for joining me. I will be recreating this, but with a different paper. And I will be altering the design pre-cuts just a little bit. So I hope you join me with that. I'll be using the Stamperia Christmas paper. There's only 10 double-sided sheets in that, so we'll be able to get 2 albums out of that. And I'm thinking I may do 2 albums at once in the tutorial so we can use it up and get it done. I haven't decided yet if I can do that, but I'm going to certainly look into that. Happy crafting, everyone, and I will see you real soon.